Welcome to the Eclectic Gamers Podcast. Today is Sunday, July 9th. This is episode 197. I am Tony.
I am Dennis. And before...
Welcome.
Yes. Well, no, I should welcome you. You are in my home, in my living room. I feel our sound quality has gotten, at least editing-wise, it's so much easier down here now because I'm not stripping out all the echo.
Right.
Like going to this with the thanks and power of the Patreon supporters where we have the nicer sound system really helped a lot. But there was still some issues where I think my sound was bouncing off of a glass door that you were sitting in front of. Mm-hmm. And then it would pick up on your mic. And so sometimes I would have to go back through and strip out my audio. Because if I turned your gain so far down, I know the listeners really want to know this. I turned your gain so far down, I could prevent picking up the echo. But then if you weren't right up at the mic, you would also drop out. And I'd have to then manually audio boost you at points, which was very frustrating. So this has gone a lot better the last couple of times where we've recorded down here. But speaking of Patreon, we do have a new Patreon member. So I want to thank Bradley B., who joined us as our basic support level. We
Welcome.
very much appreciate it. And if you want to support us on Patreon, it's available as low as $1 a month. And there is a link in the episode description. So just click on the link and it'll take you right there. Last couple of weeks, Tony. What's been going on?
Well, it's award season for my job.
Yay! Congratulations.
So I'm on the committee that gives the awards out. So
are you going to give yourself an award?
No, I actually my boss was starting to work on the paperwork to put in for the awards, and I just flat told her, just don't worry about it because I won't accept the paperwork in, because as long as I am sitting on the committee that makes the decisions for the awards, I won't even allow us to be eligible for them because I don't feel it's right. So it's not always been that way. That's not an actual
You could
rule.
just recuse yourself.
Half of the committee is people from our
group.
Okay. So
yeah, that does make it tougher.
We'd have to recuse almost everybody, and it's just easier to just not accept it. So she was fine with that. Otherwise, I think I mentioned several episodes ago that I had picked up a Humble Bundle that had like the 60 core original Battletech novels.
Yes, you did.
In it. And I am working my way through that. I am up to novel 6. I've made it as far as novel 6. And I'm just continuing to burn through that. And it's so enjoyable because one of these novels that I've already just finished, I was so excited when I got to it and was getting to it because it has one of my favorite moments in fiction ever is in it. And I was when I got it, I'm like, oh, okay. Hopefully when I get to that point, it still hits and it's just as good as it did. It was so good. It's such a cinematic moment in writing that I would just love to see just like that little scene or those like 2 chapters in like animated or some, just because they're just so perfectly beautifully done. They wouldn't work in animation because you don't have any of the background story or anything. It's so cinematically done. It's just so perfect. And that's one of my favorite moments in fiction that I've ever read. And it still hit. It's just still hit so good. It was so enjoyable. So I was happy to go through that. And I'm still pushing through. So,
well, speaking of stories, no one wrote into the podcast explaining where the tiger growls comes from. So they all lose.
You're so lucky.
They are lucky. I mean, this is for the best, but thus the offer for I think I said they could pick a topic for us to. Well, that the time's up. I'm not allowing people to just go find it and read it. So that window has closed to you. And it is for the best. Be glad you never smelled the fresh air of the tiger growling. And speaking of books, I am about halfway through Chapter House Dune now. I've only chipped away at it a little bit. I had a work conference last week. I did take Dune with me. I did read, actually, the first night. I was able to read for about an hour, which is probably where I made most of that progress. And then other than that, gaming-wise, I have continued to plug away at Puzzle Quest 3. So I've made more progress with that. I've tried out some of the other modes and stuff. They're adding more story content to it as well. And I'm not all the way through the existing story content. So because it's just
kind of working your way down.
Yeah, some of the I feel that, and it's been so long since I played like the original Puzzle Quest, but I feel like the fights take a long time if I'm not overpowered for them. So I've done things like PvP battles and skirmishes and single little like dungeon stuff, mostly because it's gotten me more gear, which allows me to raise besides my character level, gear level makes a huge difference to your spec. And the story is whatever the gear is, it doesn't scale. So you can OP your way through it. So I found that if I'm like 200 gear points, as I'll call it, ahead of the story, it's easy and pretty quick. But if I'm about equal, it could be like 10 minutes to get through a thing.
Unacceptable having to struggle for a fight.
Yes, all right. I don't believe in it. I'd be okay with it struggling, but I don't want it to turn into like this whole like Magic the Gathering game shouldn't take like 30 minutes, nor should this.
Right.
It should be fast, is my idea. So anyway, so that's what I've been doing. But what the audience wants us to do is talk about pinball and video games. And I would like to, and I don't think this is going to be a particularly meaty episode. Actually, I know it's not because I've already looked at all of our show notes. But I don't have a lot for pinball, but I do think we have a couple, one in particular interesting discussion point. But before that, I do want to open with a company we normally wouldn't open with, and that's Pinball Brothers. So Pinball Brothers, which is the company that kind of rose from the ashes of Highway Pinball in terms of making Alien Pinball, they have another game that they are getting ready to readily ship out, and that's Queen Pinball. You and I played Queen at Texas. And remind the listeners, what did you think of Queen?
It was all right.
That was sort of my overall take too of the games we kind of reviewed and go back, folks, and listen to our 2023 TPF episode if you want to know our detailed thoughts. I think I kind of like where I had my top half games and bottom half. I think Queen was my start of my bottom half. Was where
I had it right in the. It was kind of right in the middle. It was like the dividing line between good and bad.
It was where I started to really be able to point to certain things I didn't care much for, though overall it shot fairly well.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So, anyway, they've lowered the price of the game.
I'm kind of shocked because nobody lowers the price of anything anymore.
Yes, that was what, and this will feed into something in a moment, but that was what was so interesting. So for those that don't know, the Champion edition of the game has been reduced. It's now $8,995, so it's just under $9,000, but it is a $300 price reduction from what they originally advertised that it was going to be sold at. And they're getting ready to produce that version of the game. Why do you think they did it?
Did they lose a topper?
I'm not aware of any change to the trim.
In that case, they weren't getting sales. There is no earthly reason that they would reduce it unless their sales were lighter than expected, and they were hoping to have the reduction bounce sales up.
I wondered if perhaps there was a change in, because they're a European company, if there was a change in exchange rate that may have been like, well, we're going to get plenty as it is, so we're going to, again, though, that seems weird.
Seems weird. Why would they let that affect
why
something?
They wouldn't just allow that to be an added profit. So I would lean in your camp that sales are not as robust as they wanted. The other option would be that they need the capital, and they thought this might be able to get them more sales.
Right.
Because
instead of going the route of, I'm going to increase the price because I know I'm not selling as many, I'm going to increase the price. They're going the whole, let's reduce the price but sell more.
Yes. Overall, I think this is I would describe it as a nice touch. I think 300 is not enough to be impactful in a way that I would. Don't get me wrong, it's significant money. Had it been at least 500, though, I think people would have paid more attention to it.
Right, but it has people talking about it, and
That's true.
And that is a game that we've not talked about since TPF.
That's true. The thing is, at least this version, being at $9,000, this is not an inexpensive game. So, I mean, it's definitely not at the upper end. Anything under 10,000 at this point is kind of like in the I don't want to say bargain, but let's just say that it's in the realm of consideration for a lot of people. Whereas once you cross that $10,000 threshold, a lot of people are kind of like just outright ruled out. Like, we don't do 10. Like, there are too many people that remember the joke 10,000 by Christmas.
Yeah. And
are not willing to accept that we're okay with these now being small cars. But that being said, the game doesn't have like a high degree of buzz. So I just like, if you need the sales, I don't know if 300 is enough, but maybe. I mean,
it could. And again, it will generate some buzz.
Yes.
Some people will talk about it.
Some
people are like, well, it's a little too expensive, with it being maybe just a bare scratch under that 9,000 line. There are people out there though that probably have that have said, I won't pay more than $9,000 for something. Sure.
And that may be enough. And we do have to bear in mind, I mean, what is the current like MSRP on a Pro? I think it's like 7. So It's not, again, it's a couple thousand. It's within grasping range for a lot of people that might have been like, all right, I back in the day I had to consider it a premium. Premiums have gone up as well through Stern, but maybe this is kind of where that was, and I'd be okay at this price for this game, which, I mean, when you look at it, it does look like it's got more going on the surface than a lot of Pro model Sterns do. So, so anyway, interesting. I'll look forward to seeing if this strategy pays dividends. I don't think it hurts them. One of the things, and I won't belabor it because this is our pinball and video game podcast, not a wristwatch podcast, but one of the things as a watch collector and something I've covered in that content creation is we see, because we've been seeing the same thing there, that the prices keep going up with inflation and everything else. A lot of the manufacturers are pushing their prices up. And those companies generally do not cut prices. I actually read about a time where one of the major brands did, and it was extremely damaging to their reputation, because this was before I was into the hobby. But the reason for it is you immediately devalued the watches that all these other people it was Richemont, which controls some of the biggest brands like Jaeger LeCoultre and stuff. So they, back in like 2012-ish, or sometime maybe 2008, sometime like around or after the recession, they cut their prices by a few percentage points, and it just alienated like everyone who had gone and bought retail, because all of a sudden the watch was worth less. But I don't think that's the case here, because pinball is not, despite the pricing, it's not a luxury product. Right. So I don't think it operates in the same realm, especially if what you said is right, Tony, and they don't have very many sales. And if everyone who's already bought, if they haven't gotten this game yet in particular, gets honored the new price point, they won't have this. This won't hurt pinball.
Well, that would be the important part. Yeah. Is if the people who've already bought in.
Yeah, I think they'll be fine. I think this is because I think this only impacts this model, which they're getting ready to build, is my understanding. But let's move on to another company with another game that they're getting ready to build. In fact, they just announced it, and this would be Haggis Pinball. Haggis Pinball is known for 2 games currently. Their first game, Celts, which I don't remember how many they made. Was it in the neighborhood of 100? At one point, I thought I heard 80-ish, and then I thought I heard 150-ish. So somewhere in that range.
Right.
And then Fathom Revisited, which, for those that don't recall, there were 2 iterations. There was a classic edition and the limited edition. I believe the limited edition was capped at 250. There was no cap on the classic. It was you had to order by a certain deadline, and you'd be able to get the classic edition. And then in the wake of TPF this year, where we both finally got to play both Celts and Fathom Revisited, which recap of your thoughts on those games?
I vaguely remember Celts, so it couldn't have been great. Fathom Revisited was fun, but Fathom's a fun game. So,
yes, we played a game of Celts, maybe 2. I'd played it the day before as well. Celts didn't work for me. The game worked. I didn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
Fathom I liked, and the 2.0 code was clever. I thought there were some clever twists that were applied to it. After TPF, and we did cover this in a subsequent episode. I don't remember which number though. They went ahead, they being Haggis, and they made a middle tier option, because by the time of TPF, Fathom was done. Like, it was sold out because they'd already passed all their deadlines. They'd sold all of the LEs, and I had heard they'd sold barely any classics because everyone wanted the fancier trim, and you didn't get the 2.0 code with the classic. So they kind of middle tiered it, where they released an option where you could like upgrade or you could do a new order. and get like a Classic Plus. I don't remember what they called it. And basically get the 2.0 code without all of the same trim stuff.
Which makes sense.
Which they should have done from the get-go.
Yes, they should have.
But there was some blowback amongst some hobbyists, because Haggis had said when they released the LE, that was the only way to get the 2.0 code. And then it wasn't. So I think, the rep took a little bit of a hit. And now we have Celts Revisited. No, I'm afraid.
They're already remaking
Celts. I'm not sure Celts is going to reach the classic status of a class of 81 Bally game. But so Centaur Revisited. There was a teaser trailer between our last episode and this episode, which had hinted at it either being Centaur or 8-Ball Deluxe. It was Centaur. I do have a link in the show notes to an article Nap Arcade has on the website, so you can read more about this and watch the trailer if you want. There are 2 versions, but there's no classic version this time. They've learned their lesson, Tony, from Fathom. There is a Beast Edition, which is like the old LE edition. It's limited to 250 units. It is priced at 15,000 Australian dollars, which when I checked last night, that in US dollars is just a tad over $10,000. And then they have what they call the Orblivion. Because of you spell orb. You got to spell orb, Tony. Spell orb. They have the Orblivion edition, which is limited to 50. And it's priced at 25,000 Australian dollars, which is about 16,700 US dollars at current exchange rates. The differences are oh God, I'm going to choke on this word a lot. The Orblivion edition has the topper, has some custom call-out options. You can have custom call-outs for your game. You get an additional multi-ball, kind of like how Tron LE did with a Daft Punk multi-ball, would be my analogy. And it has some other stuff too. Like I think there's like an album with the music that you get like on a vinyl or something and things like that. I didn't list them all out. Go read the Nap Arcade article if you want to know. Both versions will have both the original code and the 2.0 revisited code. Now, most of the online criticism that I've seen about this game is, well, the first thing is the Orblivion edition, and this is an option. You can go either way, but did you ever see the old Family Guy episode where it clips to Ted Turner as one of the cutaways that Family Guy, the cutaway gags Family Guy does. And there's one thing where it clips to Ted Turner, and it just shows him at a microphone and he goes, "I've colorized the moon." Because if you might remember, to like Turner classic movies, he used to like colorize
everything,
all these.
Yeah,
he just colorized all these classic movies. It's the thing he was into, and so they colorized Centaur, which is black and white art with some red accents. It looked like in both versions to me, again, maybe some of this is the RGB lighting, but it looked like they've added additional color to the plastics in both versions.
It's sure how it looked in the pictures.
But, because I did watch the trailer, but on the Orblivion edition, you can ask for the more black and white playfield, but they have a colorized version of the playfield. And I'm going to agree with the criticism. I think that was a pretty big mistake.
Yeah, no, that was definitely.
I don't even know why they invested time in doing that.
I mean, it's one of those games where I think they should have just left all of that as it was.
The most iconic thing about Centaur is probably the art. In fact, I'm not going to say probably. I'm going to, because we have a podcast. It is the art. It's not the gameplay.
Oh no, it's the art.
Fathom has better gameplay than Centaur. Centaur, it's the art, and then I would say it's the call-outs after that.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with you.
So, anyway, there's been a lot of debate on that. Your thoughts? Do you have other thoughts about that? Let's explore, because this is our main topic for the day.
My thoughts open up with the fact that when I saw this, the very first thing I did was open up Messenger and send Dennis a message that opened with WTF.
I don't think you just sent it to me either, but maybe you did.
No, I think it might have gone to multiple people. But just because this game is too expensive, there is the cost of this is insane. It is like the cheap, the beast mode version is what I thought the most expensive version would cost of this game. when I first started going through stuff until prices appeared. So I was in shock at the cost of this game. But then I started getting into everything else. I do want, real quick, from the Nap Arcade article, looking at the extra special stuff from the Orblivion edition. Underworld Queen Interactive Plasma Topper. Witness the mesmerizing presence of the Underworld Queen with an interactive plasma top. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We don't need this. It's just crazy. But the custom callouts, like you said, but the thing that gets me, airbrushed motorcycle helmet and leather jacket. Embark on your pinball adventures in style with an airbrushed motorcycle helmet and a genuine leather jacket. These exclusive editions will make you feel like a true pinball rock star. No, man. They're not going to make you feel like a pinball rock star. They're going to make you feel like something. I can guarantee you that, but it ain't a rock star.
Yes. Now, did you mentioned looking at the photos? Did you watch the trailer?
No, I never watched it. I just read the article and looked at the pictures.
Okay, because there's a song, like they have a custom song about the Centaur, and I'm not sure that I like it. It's not. I don't think it's a bad song, but it's such an 80s game. The idea that they made like a rock song about Centaur feels odd to me.
Was it power ballad? Was it a power ballad?
No. And I mean, this is not, don't worry. This is nothing like bow, bow, wow, 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 wow. No, it's not like, I'm sure there will be people that like this, but
right.
Again, it's some of the decision making on what to revisit with revisiting Centaur. I just find I'm a little perplexed. Well, you point out, some like again, but colorizing the moon, doing a special song, which I mean, it's going to come on an album on the Orblivion edition. Doing the motorcycle helmet, and I mean, why didn't it just come with a motorcycle while we're at it? That made you look like a real centaur who was half motorcycle. I mean, I guess who knows what the price would have to be at that point. But, I mean, that was going to be my main focus area as well, what you led into here, which is the pricing on these games is extremely high. And I feel like, and this is my impression, obviously, I feel like they know that the price is really high, and so in desperation to justify it, they have crammed in a whole bunch of additions, add-ons. I don't mean additions as in with an ED. I mean ADDITION. That don't, like, they don't really add the value that they think they do. It just feels like we're throwing spaghetti at the wall, hoping that it'll stick. Like, again, I mean, let's take you have a motorcycle, so you being interested possibly in a airbrushed motorcycle helmet and leather jacket might make sense.
I'm not.
I got that. I got that. You made that impression very clear, Tony, to everyone who's listening. But like, I don't ride motorcycles, so I have no interest in a motorcycle helmet. Like that, to me, that's just a huge thing that's going to take up shelf space. Like, where am I going to display that?
What about scooters? Where do you feel on scooters, Dennis?
I mean, I'm not like I don't, outside of like cycling, I don't do two-wheel transportation. So like I'm not offended by scooters, but like stuff that I would wear on a scooter doesn't apply to me.
But I mean, you could have like this cool helmet and be on your Vespa with your leather jacket and your cool airbrushed custom Centaur helmet with the custom My Little Centaur song playing off in your earbuds. My little Centaur, my little Centaur. Da, 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 da.
I'm Apocalypse Pony.
War Pony.
War Pony, yes. Oh, I love it. Here's my analogy. You remember the old, it was like a late 70s game, Supersonic. It was like themed around what was that jet that held 100 people that we used to...
The Concorde.
The Concorde. It's themed around the Concorde, if I remember right. It'd be like them doing Supersonic Revisited, and the Sonic Oblivion edition came with a parachute. I feel I'm being fair here. It's like it came with a parachute. Well, but I'm not jumping out of the Concorde, so I don't. What am I going to do with a parachute? It's just going to take up space. And you ask me, well, what do you feel about Cessnas? Doesn't change the fact that I don't need a parachute. I don't need it. So that's what I feel like. Throwing that in, I feel like you probably saw in the article, the Oblivion comes with like I don't know if it was vinyl or what.
It's like a vinyl album. And
to me, that feels like, wait, Scott Denisi did this thing with a cassette tape, and then they did the thing with the Black Knight album. Stern did. So let's take that. We're like a little magpie, and we're just grabbing little bits of glitter and throwing it into our edition so that you think it's worth $17,000 or $16,500. We'll round it down. $16,500.
Yeah, but the TNA music is fire. It's on my playlist that plays at in my office at work every day.
There was a logical reason for Scott to do what he did with the album. That doesn't mean that, again, doesn't mean we get to magpie it unless you think that your song is as good as Scott's entire banger soundtrack. Which maybe it is. I don't know. I'm hoping there's more than just the one song I've heard.
It's a vinyl with just one song.
It's a single. It's a single.
Everything else is bells and chimes.
It's just bells and chimes. So I mean the whole. I mean, I just imagine him sitting there, like, I don't have an Australian impression. So let me like, crikey, we're charging $25,000. What do we do? What would Ted Turner do? Colorize the moon. Let's colorize this playfield. That'll solve all our problems, right? It's gonna solve all our problems. People like the cool water effect with Fathom. So what can we do with Oblivion? I colorize it.
Oblivion.
Yeah, I don't understand. So context wise, so we got the limited 250 version. $10,000 game. Okay, that's not the highest price game on the market, but it's on the upper end. It's 5 figures. And then
is Centaur that hard to get a hold of in the first place?
I mean, they are pretty beat up, so it would be hard to get a good one. But I don't think I don't know this to be true, but I'm going to go ahead and claim it. I think you could probably get a beater Centaur and get it like fully restored and spend less. But you're not getting like the 2.0 code and stuff.
Right.
So some of that, I don't remember. I probably should have looked it up ahead of time. How much more this, because it is more than what they charged for the Fathom games. But the Oblivion edition, deciding to do this ultra high Lux edition, which is more than the ultra high Lux Godfather game, which is overpriced.
Yes, very much so.
Is deeply concerned. And here's the thing. Here's the fundamental this is a victim of circumstance because they are doing remakes. It has to be the Centaur layout. Godfather, despite me feeling that it is grossly overpriced, even at $12,000, has a lot more going on top of that playfield than Centaur can. Because Centaur was a desperation move on the part of Bally to get highly experimental before they totally cheaped out. But it's still, because of its era, a single-level design with a few drop targets and some captive balls. Like, it doesn't have a shooter guy to fight and all of that. It's just, mechanically speaking, I believe Godfather is a more complicated. There's probably. Well, I hate to do the whole coil count thing, but basically, yeah. But basically, that's what I mean. It's like Centaur doesn't its bill of materials isn't all that high. Now, part of the problem that Haggis has is Haggis is in Australia,
right?
So obviously, and I'm not factoring in shipping. All we're doing is and flipping out Zach's company. They're the U.S. distributor for Haggis. So I went to his website last night to look and see about the U.S. pricing. It just lists the Australian pricing. So you have ultimately when you do the buy, it's going to just be a straight up currency conversion. So that's all I'm factoring right now. Not any shipping or anything.
I'm sure the shipping's going to be terrible.
So just the straight up exchange rate convert. Now we have a favorable exchange rate with Australia. It's still really bleak. So you're coming in with basically, at least when it comes to the limit of 50, to my knowledge, the most expensive game on the market. Not true for the 250 unit. Because
right.
Currently, I don't think there's anything regularly traded that's more than Godfather CE. But $10,000+ for an 80s game. Yeah. And we don't know how good the code is. And this stuff's getting built next year.
Well, and the thing that gets me is that with Fathom Revisited, you had two things. You had what is quite possibly the greatest art of its era, combined with an actually fun game. Where with Centaur, you've got the art's good, but the game's not great. It's okay.
Yeah. For
me, Centaur's all about the art package.
Sure. I think the art, the art is why people want to collect it. I personally have felt historically, I played Centaur a little bit. I like it, but it's very straightforward and it doesn't have the creativity of Fathom.
Right.
Like the outlane inlanes and stuff that Fathom's got going on. And I just think the geometry is less enjoyable on Centaur, but I do think it actually is a pretty good player for the era. But it was also never a game I would have fathomed, pun intended, to spend 5 figures on.
Right. No, it is a game that makes sense to me for a remake. It does not make sense for a high-end premium remake.
Right. And
this feels like, have you ever seen those cars where they sell the car kit so you can change your old little sedan so it looks like some modernized version of like a 40s Rolls Royce?
No, I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, that's what this kind of feels like to me. It feels like a putting, just trying to fancify something that doesn't necessarily need it.
Okay, doing a quick Google search, according to Pinside, the Mermaid Edition, which was the LE version of Fathom Revisited, was 11,500 Australian. So it was significantly less than the Beast Edition is, which is the lower tier version of Centaur.
Wow.
Like it's 3,500 Australian less. So
okay, that's shocking.
Because I actually thought when Fathom Revisited was announced, the Mermaid Edition was especially given it was being built in Australia, I thought it was pretty fairly priced given they were going to put in new code and they had the lighting and stuff. It was a lot more than what you could probably have secured a nice version of the old version, but you got benefits that I could see the argument for. This at this price point, I'm not going to go out and say like they're not going to sell out or anything like that because this is pinball and there are plenty of people that this is fine. They'll be like, this is fine. But this is definitely not a bargain, which is something their quote unquote remake competitor, Chicago Gaming, is seen as.
Right.
Because Chicago Gaming, remember when Cactus came out, people, if there was any criticism, it was the LEs were too cheap. People were like, this is like a no-brainer buy for people to get the LE.
Yeah.
Granted, they're still waiting, but so were most of the Fathom people.
Valid point.
So maybe it's not most of them at this stage. I think their plan is to finish getting Fathom built out this year. I guess kind of to conclude, sort of separate from that, Haggis is in a really weird boat to me right now, which I think is interesting. And that's because I feel like they have squandered a lot of goodwill when they started at such a high place. And I'm not even talking about the pricing. The long repeated delays, which aren't all their fault, I'm sure, regarding Fathom, for example. But also, it was a company that when they were first doing, when they were doing Celts, their big claim to fame was just how transparent they were. Lots of constant videos, video updates, the owner going out there and explaining what's going on, footage from the facility or just talking. People felt like they really understood. And then when Fathom wasn't coming out, they got really, really quiet. And it's not unusual compared to other companies, but it was unusual compared to what they were doing. And they had really, I think, and I'd have to go back and research it, my recollection, right or wrong, was they had promoted themselves as being highly transparent, and then they took that away. And then, post-TPF, while I understand it from business decisions, they decided to, and again, other companies have done this, break their word because they wanted more money, which I don't blame them for, and be like, we got to get the 2.0 code into because people finally got to play it, and they're like, the 2.0 code was good.
Yeah.
So they were willing to buy it, which is why people like me sit there, from our ivory towers of non-manufacturing and go, why'd you ever do a classic edition without the code in the first place? I thought it was a no-brainer given how much money you were asking that you want to have an option to sell the code. That you said no because you wanted to sell mermaids. That was the ship you built.
Right.
And now it's like, well, we'll build a new ship. And again, others have done this. Stern with upping the limited, the SLE count on Batman was a case in point. It was originally a lower number, and then they've done that with other LEs too, where they've been like, it's 500 LEs. Oh, sorry, we meant 750 LEs. Really? Wow. Well, amazing. What amazing. Math is hard, huh? You must be a water plant engineer to mess up the math like that. So this doesn't help with that, because I think people are going to look at this and go, this isn't inflation, this is a gouge. Had the Oblivion edition been the 15,000 Australian, I don't think people would have batted an eye.
Right.
But to go ahead and say, no, that one's 10,000 Australian more than the other game, which is already, 3,500 more than the Fathom Revisited, and a lot of people are still waiting for their Fathoms. That's just a perception thing. I think this is very expensive for what this is, and I think most of the add-ons either make 0 sense from most most people aren't really going to care about those goodies. So the attempt to inject value by putting things in that aren't even on the game isn't going to work.
It almost feels like those Kickstarters where they just keep adding to keep the money rolling up. They just keep adding more stuff in,
like stretch goals. But
but
the stretch goals are, in this instance, it's just like peripheral stuff. And where they've made decisions, like, well, what can we do that's different? Let's colorize the moon on Centaur. No. Now, if Centaur had like an awful art package, you'd be like, you know what? Like if Centaur was Hoops from Gottlieb, and they'd be like, you know what? Other than the sun, like blowing wind on the translite, like the rest of this art package is pretty much garbage tier. Like half the basketball players didn't even tie their shoes. They're going to trip and die. So let's go in and let's do the tied shoes edition where we actually go in and we just tie all their shoes. Or if you were to remake Jurassic Park Data East and you're going to fix Nedry's hand. So he's not going to have that weird hand.
Why would you do that, though?
That's. I would just draw a hook on it. He's got a little hook.
Just give him
a little hook hand. Or instead of the hand, maybe just put in the Barbasol can that he's supposed to be, from the movie. Yeah, just cut just as a sticker. Just put a little sticker.
Just a little sticker there.
Just cover that weird old hand. Weird hand. Yeah, but Centaur's art's iconic. To have the audacity to colorize it reminds me of, as we go with the Eclectic Movie Podcast, and I never watched this because I couldn't even believe they did it. And the reviews, of course, were scathing when they did the shot-for-shot remake of Psycho. Why would I not just watch Psycho? Why do I want a shot-for-shot remake? What are you doing? It's like, look at this. It's not high art to just copy someone. That's not a homage. That's copying.
I never understood that. I
never
ever understood that.
It was so weird, and this is weird too to me. We're going to take this iconic art package, and I get that they'll say you don't have to take it. Thank you. That's smart. That you'll let me have a more traditional looking playfield. Let's go back to Jurassic Park. You only ask yourself if you could without thinking about if you should. Anyway, this is a miss for me. I have absolutely zero interest in this remake, which is unfortunate because I actually like Fathom Revisited Mermaid Edition. I wouldn't mind owning that game. I'm not going to go out and buy it, but I wouldn't mind owning that game. This, I guess the Beast Edition would be okay, but the price that it's at is above what I think the game. I just don't think the 2.0 code can raise it to that level for me. And so without that,
I think there's other games at that price point
and
that you would rather have.
And most of the other incentives, as silly as I find them, they're with the Oblivion edition anyway. So it's kind of moot. Like, because they're only going to sell 50 of those, and I'm not spending $16,500 on a 1980s game.
But you get an album, you get vinyl, and a jacket.
I don't even have a record player.
Helmet. And custom callouts, so they say your name.
That's something that they kind of did with a screen with Celts. Again, another, and I don't, I'm trying, now I'm feeling like I'm being overly negative. Another low effort add-on. Like it's, well, I'll use myself as a low effort example. So again, with my Watch YouTube, I finally added a Discord last night. You got an invite.
Yes.
Because I need an administrator to help run the Discord. All right. Well, because I'm like, I charge a whole 99 cents a month. That's 1 penny less than this podcast is Patreon. I got to give them something. But what did I do before that? Priority reply to comments. Wow. What an effort. I mean, everyone, I think, who was doing it knew that they're just being supportive to, give me 99 cents a month. But like priority reply to comments is not like a lift.
Right.
Or emojis. Other than initially creating the emoji, it wasn't much work. Like, how long does it take me to make an emoji? 10 minutes? It's like, it doesn't take very long.
But
so,
it is kind of nice because it's not like modding
fun.
Your live streams is a problem.
Right.
Because it's like you have a nice
sort
little
of fun
community.
stuff. But the difference is I didn't charge, an additional, $6,000 for
it. You need to have 2 tiers. You need to have a 99-cent tier and a $6,000 tier.
I'll call it the Orblex edition. People, $6,000 a month, they would be like, "You're going to send me a Rolex?" I'll be like, "Yeah, after 6 months, you can have an Oyster Perpetual."
Yeah,
31 millimeter. Anyway, there's only one more thing for us to cover in the pinball segment, Tony, and that is Rumor Corner.
Rumor Corner. Rumor Corner. Rumor Corner. Rumor Corner. Rumor Corner. Dennis Crystal's got the news before Nap Arcade. Ain't that right, Tony? Yeah.
Okay, so for today's rumors, I have... I'm already going to say, I'm not sure this is going to entertain you. I don't think this is, compared to last week's with the Harry Potter thing, that one was huge. This is.
I've still got some chats and with people going on and talking about Harry Potter stuff.
Guys and gals, listeners, and
some of it's in the Discord, in our Discord.
In fact, I think it might have been one of the Discord posters who came in, and our Discord doesn't require 99 cents or anything. It's there's a link in our show notes in the in the audio. You can click and join the Discord through that. I have a link there, a permanent link. I think it was there. Someone went in and basically, this is the paraphrase, says, "Dennis, I can't wait for you to be so wrong and Harry Potter to be so awesome and you be so sad that this Harry Potter is so awesome and everything you've said in this rumor is a dirty, filthy, nasty lie." To which I would say, Rumor Corner is never wrong, so it doesn't matter. Even when Rumor Corner is wrong, it's not wrong. That's the power of Rumor Corner.
60% of the time, it's right 100% of the time.
It's like Rumor Corner acknowledges, except everyone listening, except that Rumor Corner is just a pile of falseness. And therein lies the truth of it. Hence, victory is always obtained.
Also, we wouldn't be sad if, let me not speak for you. I wouldn't be sad if Harry Potter was amazing. I just don't hold out hope. I
don't care. I don't care if it's amazing or not. I don't. Just like I don't really care that Godzilla ended up being the greatest game ever made. It's cool that it is. I bought it because it is.
Yeah.
It is what it, but if Godzilla had been awful and they had done That's a Lot of Fish, I've been like, that was bad and move on. I don't have the same attachment to nostalgia that some people do with that stuff. Like there's a rumor that I think Nap Arcade has an article, and I don't have a link in the show notes because I'm only going to talk about it. But there's a rumor that Stern has Masters of the Universe. I had He-Man toys. My dog chewed up one. I had to get a second He-Man. I played with He-Man toys. I don't care if the game is good or not good.
Yeah.
I mean,
that would be.
I like pinball to be good because it's going to be on location, and I'm going to want to play it, and I don't want it to be like Guns N' Roses or Led Zeppelin, where when I get the game in the draw, I'm like,
can I forfeit?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, at least Led Zeppelin was going to be over quickly. With Guns N' Roses, I would really be like, I never actually thought forfeit. I always thought with Rob Zombie, I did. With Guns N' Roses, it was like, please break, please break, please break. And half the time it would. So we'd be okay. But
there are definitely certain games that in a tournament situation, I'll drain and just be like, darn, as I walk away. They're like, ball save, and I'll just keep walking.
yeah, this is how it is. That's probably why we're not in the top 100. And we're just sad little players.
Yes, that's what it is.
It's that. It's really just that we don't try hard enough.
Yes.
We're the opposite of our tryhards. We're the not tryhards. We are the try lesses.
I'm just there for food and social interaction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I noticed I actually get sloppier with my play. Like if it's like 8:30 at night now and I'm like, I haven't eaten yet, I'm like, I don't really want to continue. But I don't want to look like I'm throwing either. So I kind of try a little less hard, maybe get a little sloppier with the shots.
I think we need to rechange that plan so we eat first.
Yeah, the problem is because the tournaments start, then everyone cares about this. The tournaments start at 5, so that basically means we have to eat at 4. You have to factor in when you're going to get the food too. You can't cut it too close. So it's like, it just becomes so early. I'm just like annoyed. Annoyed.
Let's see. Lunch is between breakfast or
it is.
Brunch is between breakfast and lunch. What's between
Linner?
Yeah,
there's Linner, but
I guess technically it wouldn't be like high tea. Would it count?
I don't.
To have
we're
tacos
not
for high tea.
We're not British, so I don't know if that counts. I don't know. Look, this is just, and I know a lot of tournament people completely disagree, and that's fine. They're hardcore, awesome, top 100 people, and everyone gets to have their own view. I do not believe that a regular, like a monthly pinball tournament should run longer than watching a theatrical version. And I'll be generous. Extended edition Lord of the Rings movie. I should be done with a tournament by the time Fellowship ends. The long version. The only one. I don't even remember the theatrical versions because I haven't seen them since the theaters.
Yeah, me neither.
So when tournaments run longer than that, they've gone too long. That is my position. Setting aside things like state championship series and stuff like that, major event sort of things. I don't feel that it should be longer than a movie experience. I'm there to do a social interaction, have fun, and play. That's a long time to be, and most of that time sitting.
Yeah.
So
I understand if it's the big super tournaments where it's like a full weekend of insanity with like thousands of people that it's going to take forever. But yeah, a normal like tournament, if we're set at 6 hours or more, if I'm not getting home till midnight from my 5 p.m. tournament, I'm not a happy Tony.
Yeah, it's just, and so that's where it's gotten more difficult for me lately because I have other stuff that I want to do, and I have to consider when we talk about, or I consider going and doing a Saturday tournament, I have to at this point defaultly assume because I'm going to have to leave the house like 4:30, depending which location it is, that the rest of my evening is lost. I don't have the rest of my day. It's because I have no idea when I'm going to be like, is it going to be, I don't even always know the format. So if it's going to be head-to-head play, I might be out in under an hour. If I win though, it might, in fact, I like 1-2 lost to last time I was at 403 Club, and that still stretched me to 8:35 p.m. at a 5 p.m. start. And I played against 4 people total.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't work for me. Is my problem. That as I get older, I'm just like, this doesn't work for me. I got 30-minute drive back after this, and it is what it is. So anyway, rumor corner, because we're in rumor corner. That is not the rumor. No one cares about what we just whined about except us. The rumor corner is actually about another pinball company we don't spend a lot of time talking about, Dutch Pinball, makers of The Big Lebowski, which they continue to, I was going to say churn out, but that would imply a high level of production. I think I read somewhere, I don't remember his nap, it might have been on Facebook though, something like they're in like the 140s of the early adopters. So, I mean, they've been making progress. It's been years, but they've been making progress.
They're getting there.
We thought they would have folded years ago. So,
I completely figured they'd be, when they started making them out of a basement one at a time, I thought they were done.
Yeah, so we definitely miscalled that. So here's the thing. This is already a circulating rumor. This isn't new to individuals, but Dutch Pinball is anticipated I believe this is covered on the Pinball News, Pinball Magazine, Pinball
That's a lie.
podcast.
Nobody anticipates it.
Yes. That they're going to be revealing game number 2, I guess, relatively soon.
Who's going to trust them with money?
I honestly, they've been at it so long that there are a lot of people that don't remember the ARA and the Fallout and everything. Like, we talked a lot about ARA or ARA, however you want to say it. That was their original contract manufacturer and how that all fell apart and how they'd squandered so much money, and that's why they're in the situation they're in. They're just, honestly, there are a lot of collectors now that don't know any of that. And if you buy a new TBL, you don't wait. Like, you get it pretty quick. It's the people that pre-bought back with the contract manufacturer that are stuck waiting for enough sales, and then they get one, and then enough sales, and then another one goes out. So anyway, another game at long last, because they have consistently said that they were not going away after this, despite my personal opinion, which obviously they don't care about, which was finish up your Big Lebowskis, make everyone whole, pat yourself on the back for spending a decade to do it, and then end this and go away. That's not their plan. Their plan is to make more games. So, here's the thing. I've seen very little about stuff, but purportedly people have tried this game, played this game, and said that it plays pretty well, which is a reputation that the Big Lebowski had. In fact, we finally played it at this year's TPF, and we both had pretty positive reaction to the game. You actually more so than me in terms of how it played.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
So, I'm hearing that game's coming out soon, and the game plays really well. What the rumor corner is, which I've not heard out, from outside sources, and that we are sharing here exclusively with Eclectic Gamers Podcast listeners, is that the theme itself that they've gone with, that the theme will be known, but it is not remotely of the same caliber as the cult classic, The Big Lebowski. So it's going to probably, this is my speculation at this point, no longer the rumor. My speculation would be it's going to have to really rely on exposure and acceptance of the gameplay, whereas with Big Lebowski, a lot of people just bought it because they loved the dude. And then it just happened that the game was good. And so that just added to the, it's actually a good game. Not like when people were trying to buy Predator, another game no one remembers, where it was like, this game is crap, but we love Predator, so we want it. Like, I don't know anyone who thought Predator played well. Even Nate Shivers, back when he did Coast to Coast Pinball, actually, because I felt I felt he was overly kind to Predator, but even he was like, this is not my type of game, which is is code.
Yeah.
Which is code for people that don't like to say anything negative. That it's I almost swore. it's terrible. It's stuff. It's bad stuff. But anyway, are you rumored?
So what?
Oh. Yes. What do you think?
What would be a theme that would be interesting?
I haven't heard any. Like, the rumor didn't include any. Like, I don't know if it's a movie, music, like a band, TV show.
Because the Big Lebowski's so cult. Mm-hmm. I could see another cult, but we've already got a lot of the cult classics have already had things made on them by one group or another.
Well,
I mean, what could we...
Some. I mean, there are, because cult classics aren't, like, broadly commercial. Like, for example, the low-hanging cult classic fruit would be Big Trouble in Little China.
That would be.
Because people talk it up all the time. Probably a pretty cheap license to get, because the movie itself didn't do great.
It's such a good movie,
it's a true cult classic.
It is.
However, I don't think the rumor would be what the rumor is if it was Big Trouble. Because I think Big Trouble has a bigger cult status than the Lebowski.
Yeah.
I'm probably wrong on that. I'm probably being 80s nostalgia biased, because I've seen Big Trouble in Little China. Like, I own Big Trouble in Little China. I don't own I don't own Lebowski.
It's a great movie.
So that would be one.
Escape from New York.
Escape from New York. Assault on Precinct 13. I think that's a little too out there.
Yeah.
Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Rocky Horror.
Very cult classic.
I admit, I would be tempted. I would definitely want to play a Rocky Horror. I don't know if I'd be tempted to purchase a Rocky Horror, but I would be tempted to. I would definitely want to play a Rocky Horror.
You want me to go real weird cult classic? How about that French film Brotherhood of the Wolf? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. We saw that in theaters, didn't we?
Yes. I guess we did. I know I did. I didn't remember
That one was. I know it's got a lot of buzz. People
it's
like, but it's
just
just
extremely well respected action movie, and again, it actually got theatrical release. It was subbed. There probably is a dub version, but it actually. I watched a making or like a YouTube thing on it, and purportedly it did achieve cult classic. Like it did very well on video, and so achieved cult classic status. And they're Dutch, remember? So maybe that's a bigger deal over there than
could be
because of French film. And the Dutch are like
they might not be able to afford Rocky Horror. It could be Priscilla.
Oh, you see, that would make. So why couldn't Haggis do that? Is because that's set in Australia. Priscilla, Queen of the Desert.
Yep.
Yeah, I haven't seen that in a long time. It's a fun movie, though.
They both are.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. There's just so many cult classics that normally for a high volume entity they wouldn't make them because there's just not like you don't know if the demand is there for such a
Arachnophobia. Then you stay with the John Goodman theme too.
That would be funny, especially if you could get him to do call outs as the exterminator. I think I got out of the ball drains. I think it's still there on the bottom of my shoe. Maybe that's ball save. I don't know. So anyway, are you rumor-tained?
I was rumor-tained.
Oh, okay. Good. Well, video game entertain us.
Video game-tainment? I come to you with video games, and there's just some amazing news. Lord of the Rings Gollum.
My precious.
This game was so successful. It was such a big hit. It's so amazing.
We swears it.
That how do you pronounce it? Daedalic, the company that made it, was so successful that they decided they cannot possibly top making Gollum. So they are completely out of the video game development business. They laid off 25 employees and decided we're never going to make another. We're going out on top, baby. We're going out on top. We can't do another one this good.
This news, and we talked about this before we went on air, has very much excited me because I think this increases the odds that a $1 version of this game comes out maybe within the next year. And I'm thinking that this is probably one that I need to live stream on Eclectic Gamers podcast.
It would definitely be something special. Get your emo hair all right.
I kind of have my hair like that today.
Get your hair all emoed right. We'll get a little powder and
give it
whatever.
to us raw and wiggling.
Anyway, that was fun news. I was really excited.
That was that was great fun. The Microsoft Federal Trade Commission trial was going on. They had 5 days of hearings, lots of discussions. Sony had some documents that they did some really poor redaction on, where they just used a Sharpie to black out certain things, and then when they scanned it so it could be displayed, you could see straight through the Sharpie. So
that's unfortunate.
So they let that was all on financial information. So we found out that Sony got $1.5 billion from their cut of Call of Duty sales on PlayStation just in 2021.
Wow.
So that's a big number. We also learned that Activision's deal with Sony for Call of Duty ends this year, at the end of this year.
Yeah, because they've had some like special exclusive arrangements, like timed exclusive stuff, or custom skins and stuff.
All sorts of, we also learned that Bethesda had more PlayStation games in development than Xbox when they were acquired by Xbox. And we also learned that Microsoft was so worried about not getting Starfield that it was one of the trigger points for the purchase of Bethesda.
Interesting. That was very surprising to me.
I
mean, I get it when I think about it. I didn't know Starfield was that big of a deal to them, and that there was seen as a perceived risk that they wouldn't have it.
Yeah. They also one of the very first things they did was they canceled all PlayStation versions of games that didn't already have an exclusivity agreement, which has apparently caused some surprise in Bethesda because they've changed tact so much on the Activision bid, where they're saying, "Oh yeah, we'll do this," because apparently Bethesda had asked about releasing on PlayStation, and Microsoft was like, "No."
Yeah,
And now they're like, "Yeah, no, totally."
Yeah, no, and I think that's just a response to the criticism that they've got of the scrutiny of the deal. Because honestly, my assumption had been when they got Bethesda that they were doing it to get exclusives.
Right.
Because that's the biggest complaint people, again, from the console sales perspective, which because they're so far in third place, it's like the biggest criticism is, Microsoft doesn't have any good exclusives. So why not buy a studio where people love their franchises? So you have a few.
Yeah. I mean, it would just make sense, but let's see, what else do they say? Microsoft, their internal documents expect to see the PlayStation 6 in 2028, which I've heard things about the next round of Xbox around 2028.
Yeah, I was hearing that.
I think that's pretty much commonly considered when we'll probably see the next generation come out. Sony is intending to keep Activision out of the PS6 development loop if Microsoft acquires them, because apparently Activision had a rather large hand in helping with hardware development of the PS5.
That was interesting.
Yeah,
I never thought about a software company like that being involved in their hardware development.
What should be a zero surprise to anybody, Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella stated that they'd love to eliminate console exclusivity on everything. They don't want any games to be exclusive to a console.
Yes.
That makes sense for the person in last place, that you wouldn't want anything to be exclusive.
That's true.
But what also came out as interesting to me, because I'd not actually heard it before, but Microsoft, it's come out that Microsoft chose Activision for a purchase, not about the consoles. We always refer to it as, Activision Blizzard, but the truth of the matter is it's Activision Blizzard King. Yes. King is the mobile division. That was the primary driver on Microsoft's purchase, or desire to purchase, is for King.
I had, and this is just in my head canon, I had always thought that Phil Spencer wanted Activision for the console video games, and the way he sold it to Microsoft was, we'll have such a big space in mobile gaming because of King. This is why we should spend this much money. It's because that's where you'll make money, but he'll be able to position his Xbox division much better because he's got Activision Blizzard stuff. But King is the reason why it makes sense for Microsoft to want it.
Which makes sense.
But yeah, we never talk about it because it's like not a part of any of the debate that ever like comes up with the, like, you shouldn't be able to, like, I haven't heard anyone go out and say you shouldn't get King. But it's like, but King's huge.
Yeah. We don't want Microsoft to have Candy Crush.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just one of those things. The hearings are over. There has been, as of this date, no ruling.
It'll probably come out tomorrow.
Of course it will. It's going to have to come out soon. They've got because if it doesn't come out by I think it's the 17th, it's the 13th or the 17th, something like that. Microsoft's got to pay out Activision Blizzard a lot of stuff and have the contract dissolved, ended, failure to hit the date payments. Twitch is adding a whole bunch of social media stuff to the Twitch app to get more interaction with people. It's literally, I think they're trying to fight the fact that TikTok and all of that is become the primary contact points for a lot of their streamers, and they're doing stuff, doing interactions when they're not streaming with their groups. They're trying to bring that in-house too.
Okay. Well, I get the motivation, but I mean,
yeah. Who uses the Twitch app?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like, YouTube's sort of the same way. There's not, outside of comments, there's like, YouTube took away the messaging feature because like harassment and stuff was a problem. So
yeah,
most of that stuff's done through Discords or Facebook or, other things.
Starfield, which we talked about.
Yeah.
The physical editions of Starfield are not going to have discs except for the Xbox Standard Edition. The super fancy, exclusive, expensive collector's editions, no discs. The PC versions, no discs. They're all going to just have digital codes.
Will it come with an airbrushed motorcycle helmet?
No, they're nowhere near that cool. They wish they were that cool. They'll come with like a sandwich, so you can make a pile of sandwiches on your table. Table sandwich.
I collect sandwiches. That was so weird.
That was like one of the weirdest parts of that whole thing. I collect sandwiches, and it's just a table full of sandwiches.
It's like this are my trophies. I'm like a serial killer, and I take sandwiches. Trophy.
Another thing we've not really talked about. There's been a lot of drama on Reddit over the last couple of months, and we've kind of ignored it because it's not video games, it's not pinball, and it just kind of barely relates to it. But Mojang has ended its official support for the Minecraft subreddit due to the ongoing issues with Reddit.
Oh, okay.
And I know I've talked about it briefly here and there because there's been some drama going on, but we've pretty much stayed away from it. But yeah, no, it is spreading and continuing to the point of places pulling their official support. Ubisoft, getting ahead of the game, is dropping a blockchain game.
I'm amazed this isn't Square Enix news, but okay.
That was my first thought. I thought I misread the article when I read it. But yep, nope, they are dropping a PvP tactical RPG that utilizes the blockchain. I don't know. At some point, people have to stop making blockchain games be a thing. It's either... I can't see it taking off. Maybe it will, but it just seems weird to have the core mechanic of your game be something blockchain related.
It feels forced to me.
It does.
Like, we're going to make this work because it's got hype stuff. Blockchain is hype.
It's the block.
Except it's not anymore.
It's over.
It's crypto winter time. Congratulations if you still own a bunch of crypto. Sorry. Maybe invest in something tangible.
Sorry you didn't get out when the time was right. So,
how's your GameStop stock doing? While I'm asking about your financial health, how are your diamond hands doing?
It's gonna go to the moon any minute now. To the moon. Niantic, developers of Pokemon Go.
Yes, I haven't played that in years.
I haven't either. I work with a couple people who still play it every day. They are reducing staff heavily. They are letting go a quarter of their staff. They have outright canceled their Marvel game that was in production. It hasn't launched yet, but it's been in production. It's gone. They also have shut down their NBA All-World game that just launched, like this year. It shut down. They're completely closing their LA studios, and they are trimming down and concentrating on continuing Pokemon Go as a living forever game. And they're also concentrating on a couple smaller projects, collaborations they're working on with Nintendo and a Monster Hunter game. They just recently closed their Harry Potter game. It was only up for like 2 years, and then they shut it down.
Do they still have the game you used to play before Pokemon Go came out? There was something.
They did have a game. That's what I played before Pokemon Go, and I actually enjoyed it more than Pokemon Go. I don't know if it's still up. I've not touched it even longer than Pokemon Go. I can't remember it. But I played that game like religiously before Pokemon Go came out. I still think it was the better game. And I think we're at the end of our Yuji Naka saga. He had all the stuff, and the judge has sat down and actually set down final judgment. He has been sentenced to 2.5 years in prison, but that sentence has been suspended. He's on probation for 4 years. And as long as he doesn't violate probation, he does not have to go to jail.
Okay.
He does still need to repay his $1.2 million in fines, though.
I guess he doesn't got to go fast to jail.
Yeah, he's just got to walk the straight. I wonder, what is the probation for a white-collar crime like that? It's like, no more insider trading. Is that the probation? Just don't cheat the stock market.
Yeah, I wonder if he has to do check-ins, like how you hear about.
Have you been running stocks today? Let me see your stock portfolio.
Maybe I get to have access to your Vanguard username and password. Going in and checking, making sure.
Can you imagine taking your accountant into your parole officer so you can go through your stocks?
It's so strange.
It's so weird.
Now you have to end on something special.
I'm going to end on something special. I was bored. Let's start. I'm going to open this up with I was bored.
Oh, no, I'm getting Buffy Willow bored now. Flashbacks.
It's nowhere near that good.
Oh, okay.
But I was looking and I found a live stream last weekend. And it was a live stream of the Bandai-Namco game announcement panel at Anime Expo. And I was like, oh, look, let's see what anime games that Bandai Namco is kicking out. Because that's what they kick out, like tons. That's like their bread and butter. I kind of hoped because they announced at the PlayStation thing, I think it was the PlayStation game thing earlier in the year, that there is going to be a new Dragon Ball Z Budokai coming out. They didn't say anything about it. But what gets me is it was, I'm serious, the worst panel I have ever seen in my entire life. There wasn't that many people there. There was lots of empty seats. The crowd was silent. They were announcing games, and everybody up at the panel in the desks were clapping, and they had their hype guy there who was trying to hype everything up, and it was dead. Mm-hmm. I mean, there was no hype. Occasionally you get a woo. I mean, you could hear the people on the panel clapping more. They had all the Japanese developers for the games coming up and talking to it, and they do their normal, say hi in English or with a few words of English, then they'd switch over to a translator. And you could tell they had spots written into their discussions to have that's basically like wait for applause.
Yeah, applause, pause. Yeah.
Yeah, and they would stop, and there'd be nothing. It would just be silence, and then they go, "Yeah, we were very excited too." It was just so heavily scripted, but half of the script wasn't happening, so it was just everything was super one-sided, and they were doing giveaways. What they were doing giveaways was by basically pulling out numbers to choose like which section, which row, which chair. But every time they did a giveaway, they'd have to draw the numbers multiple times before they found a chair that actually had somebody sitting in the chair, because it was just they were giving away like really expensive stuff, like multi-$100 models and stuff. But it's like, this one, no, there's nobody in the chair. This one, no, there's nobody in that chair. Oh, this one, okay, like, congratulations. It was just, I was sad. I was so sad. They had the one translator lady translating everybody. So sometimes they'd have like multiple people talking, but she would translate everybody. So it would just kind of, you couldn't tell who was saying what. Right. And she was reading everything, the script off of an iPad anyway, as she was setting up there. So she was just sitting there, just reading straight off the iPad. She might not have even known Japanese. I don't know. I'm assuming she did. But most everything read as so scripted that it didn't feel like there was anything off the cuff. And because it's an anime convention, at one point, they just brought out a whole bunch of cosplayers and had them standing behind the developers as they were talking about their game. And they would just occasionally turn around, and how about a hand for our cosplayers, as they're just sitting there, and the whole room's just like, yay.
It was funny. I was playing Overwatch 2, and Tony was sending me messages, and I kept checking my phone, and it'd be like, the way he told it was, it's like, I'm watching Bandai Namco. Dennis, it's bad, Dennis. Dennis, it's really bad. Nobody's there, Dennis. Dennis, the panel is clapping for itself. That's all I can hear is the panel is cheering itself on. The hype man is just dying here. Dennis, they have to do multiple giveaways on the drawings. No one's there. Everyone left because it's such a mess. Dennis, this is really bad. Maybe you should watch it. It's so bad, but it's bad. So be aware that it's bad. I did not watch it.
Yeah, no, it's
was
fine. It was. I understand it's not the situation you would expect a big crowd anyway. It's just the crowd was so dead, and it was just so. Like I said, the hype guy, you could see him. He's trying to rally stuff up and get stuff going, and he's got that hollow excited. Yeah, dude, let's go, yeah. But it just wasn't working. It was rough. It was real rough. I enjoyed it. I had quite a lot of fun laughing at it.
Well, and hopefully the listeners have enjoyed it as well. But we're not really recommending that you go back and watch it.
No.
This is the recount that you needed.
Yes.
This is the recount
This
you
was more
deserved.
enjoyable than
Yeah.
actually
Yes.
watching it.
Well, we made it
We're done.
through. So if you want to reach out to us about Bandai Namco or anything else we talked about on this episode, you can email us at eclecticgamerspodcast@gmail.com. You can also go and comment at facebook.com/eclecticgamerspodcast. You can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/eclectic_gamers.
We're available on Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram, and we've already talked about the link for our Discord where we talk with everybody pretty often.
Yep. We talk video games, we talk pinball, we talk off-topic stuff as well. Discord's actually gotten a lot more activity lately too.
It has.
So thank you for that. And you don't have to be a Patreon member to join this Discord. It's open to everyone.
Yeah.
And we will be back in a couple of weeks. Who knows what mysterious news? At the very least, we should know the outcome of the FTC stuff.
I would hope so. I think we have to hear about it this week.
So anyway, until then, my name is Dennis.
I'm Tony.
Goodbye, everybody.
See ya.